Well, good morning, my friends, my friends. Am I live? I think I'm live. I think I'm live. What is going on with this camera? Is my picture clear? I don't know. Looks like I'm blurry. Oh well, doesn't matter. Anyhow, good morning. My name is Benjamin Blackett, Life Mastery Consultant, Motivational Speaker, and Transcendence Facilitator. Welcome to a creative healing place. You have found your way to my Morning Mindset book study. And we are in the book right now. We have just started a brand new book, brand new baby book, brand new baby day. And the book is Physics of God, The Physics of God by Joseph Selbie, which I'm pretty thrilled to bring you. He says on the cover of the book how the deepest theories of science explain religion and how the deepest truths of religion explain science. And so I think this is a pretty fascinating book so far. I mean, we haven't even gotten into it at all. We're not even out of the foreword yet. Never mind the foreword. We haven't even gotten into the introduction. And already I think it's pretty interesting. So anyhow, as you get here, it's always more interesting for me when you let me know that you're here. Tune in, sign in, make a comment, let me know either over there, or down there, wherever your comments show up, that you have made it here. And let's see, what do we got? Yesterday we left off on page XII, Roman numeral number 13. There we go. I knew I could say it somehow if it all came out the right way. We left off with this thought. We were given the question, so if the philosophy of scientific materialism is wrong, can we include that God does exist? Does it mean that God is scientifically verifiable? And this, of course, is the big question of the book, right? That there is, in fact, a physics of God. That's the question. Selbie makes a concise and convincing case that there is. He draws from the transcendent testimony of mystics over the world over, as well as from the findings of string theory, David Bohm's version of quantum physics, quantum biology, neuroscience, and the quantum physics itself to demonstrate that the physics of God is at hand. Which, of course, is what quantum physics is all about in the end, right? The interesting thing about it, now Dr. Joe Dispenza studies quantum physics, and he talks about often the fact that as long as there's science, we can talk about it. But as soon as we talk about religion, people get scared, right? But the truth is that he's talking about the fact that science and religion go together, and one proves the other. So he continues this way, and by the way, this is a foreword, and it is written not by Joseph Selbie, but by Amit Goswami. He says this, in my own view as a quantum physicist, quantum physics alone gives us God. But my personal view is beside the point. So again, saying that quantum physics is here about there is physics of God. Yes, absolutely, Allah. Absolutely. The point is that any serious thinking person can look at the data and the existing ideas of post-materialist thinking and figure out that God is back of science. So there is science, and yet without God there is none, right? God is back of science. Drawing on the work of leading scientists as well as leading mystics, Selbie has provided a wonderfully persuasive and clear argument for coming to that conclusion. The most important point is that with God back in the picture, and backed up by science this time, we can go about founding a human science in which all human experiences are legitimate and scientific, including the spiritual. And this is the most important thing for us, for you and I who have come here, right? Because we want to know, is this spiritual stuff real, or is it, or is it just some woo-woo stuff that doesn't really mean anything? But what he's saying here is that it is real. Others and I are working on that, and I'm glad that Selbie has joined the effort. And Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of those, and you'll hear me talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza several times during this reading, I'm sure, because I have been following Dr. Joe Dispenza avidly for the past gosh, I'd say it's 4 years now. Anyhow, and his scientific experiments are really about this, right? So read this book. It will help you too to gain a new perspective. The only qualification is that you see yourself as more than the soulless machines that many scientific materialists see. So we want to see ourselves as these beings, right? These spirit beings. And of course, those of you who follow my readings on a regular basis, I think you are in this boat already. There's an amount of ability to see that we are actually connected one to the other, that there is one. There is physics of God. The only that was fun, right? The only qualification is that you see yourself as more than the soulless machines that many scientific materials see. The rest, as Selbie describes it, is the beginning of life's greatest adventure. And that is from Amit Goswami, who is a quantum physicist. I think it's a fantastic forward to the book. So we come into the introduction on page XV, which is Roman numeral page 15. A love of science came to me early, and this is Joseph Selbie, by the way. A love of science came to me early and has stayed with me all my life. My family tree is full of doctors and engineers. My father studied at Princeton, Harvard, and MIT. My brother graduated from Georgia Tech. Dinner table conversation at home had to be backed up with references. In my college entrance exam, I was the 99th percentile in science and math. I entered the University of Colorado confidently expecting to land a science degree, and I spent most of my first 2 years studying math, physics, microbiology, and chemistry. Now I tell you, as he says this to us, this is where I start to shudder myself. Why? Because I am a scientist of spirit, right? Then something happened that forever altered my course in life. I had a transcendent, I don't know if I can speak correctly, transcendent. That's because I'm a transcendence teacher. And of course, transcendence helps us do some transcending. But this is the truth. He said, I had a transcendent experience. So, like many of my generation, I experimented with psychedelic drugs. In one life-transforming trip, I had an utterly beguiling experience. I became, to my delight, highly intuitive, serenely calm, and warmly heart-centered. My awareness subtly expanded to take in everything from the glow of life in a plant to the hidden feelings of my companions. I felt myself to be more than a body. At the heart of my experience were expansive feelings of boundless peace, joy, and well-being, feelings that seemed completely natural, as if the person I had always been simply woke up. I had never felt more joyful, more alive, or more at peace in all my life. And I just want to say, if you're listening to this as a first-time introduction to this idea, even there's the idea that he took a drug and there was this perceptive change in him. And I would just like to offer you that as a transcendence facilitator, and I know Ala Goldman, who's tuned in with me, she is also an expert transcendence facilitator. We both know that you can find this state that he's talking about without taking any drug. All we have to do is access our inner self. And so as much as this little experience he had with a drug is what brought him all these beautiful experiences of interaction with life, one can access that through their own spirit at any time, just by a little movement. It's crazy. So he continues, it was beyond wonderful. The experience stayed with me for several days, long after any trace of the drug could have remained in my system. I realized then that the drug could only have triggered the experience, and that the source of that experience had to be an integral part of who I am. The realization that my experience was not simply an ephemeral hallucination set me on a personal quest to find out how to live in that amazing transcendent state all the time. And so here's the thing. He's saying we can all get to this transcendent state. And beauty is that there are so many ways to get there. And I just mentioned transcendence, a modality of movement, right? But that's not the only way. And the good news is that there are as many ways as there are people on the planet. However, if you're having a hard time feeling stuck with it, transcendence is a great way to get unstuck. So there was nothing I knew about science at that time that could explain what I had experienced. Yep, okay, just want to make sure I was reading the next right thing. Abruptly changing my major from microbiology to philosophy, I took a deep dive into Western metaphysics. Eagerly, I immersed myself in Plato, Aristotle, Hume, Kierkegaard, Kant, Nietzsche, Sartre, and many Christian theologians, including Augustine and Aquinas. Though I found some inspiration in my several-year-long swim through Western philosophy, I did not find what I was hoping to find. Western philosophy tends to be dryly intellectual. And that is the truth about Western philosophy. That's what we, as a matter of fact, most of us have had experience of, at least on this side of the planet. Most of us have had experience of that, and so therefore think that it's all dry, right? I learned almost nothing to help me bridge the gap between the heady thoughts of these philosophers and my heartfelt transcendent experience. Not satisfied, I transferred to University of California, Berkeley, where I studied with deepening interest the philosophies of Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, and Hinduism. These philosophies began to narrow the gap between theoretical knowledge and my actual transcendent experience because, unlike most of the Western philosophers who relied on reason and logic to arrive at an intellectual understanding of consciousness and matter, the Eastern sages relied on methodical and repeated transcendent experiences to arrive at an experiential understanding of consciousness and matter. We're talking about experience. It's going to be something to jump us into a new level, my friends. The difference between the Western and the Eastern approaches is like the difference between talking about a meal and eating one. And I soon learned that the secret to eating the meal is meditation. He soon learned. So this is a man who's written us a book, and he's going to be talking to us about meditation throughout, I'm sure. He's just brought it up, and he's not even into the beginning of the book. We're just introducing it. We're on page XVI, Roman numeral 16. I was drawn to meditation for the same reasons I was drawn to science. It was precise, rational, and most crucially, provided verifiable results. And this is the truth about meditation. And the transcendence that I mentioned earlier, that Allah and I both teach, is a form of meditation. It's meditation in movement. No belief required. Same thing with transcendence. No belief required. Meditation is the objective instrument of discovery in what I've come to understand as the science of religion. In meditation, at last, I had discovered a practical and effective means of attaining the transcendent awareness and joy that I had only accidentally stumbled upon through my use of physical drugs. Oh, I'm sorry, of psychedelic drugs. Physical, psychedelic, it all ended to him up in the same place anyhow, right? Is it just me, or are you seeing wavingness in my camera? I don't know. I'm seeing this kind of anyhow. Enough of that. Let's get on with the reading. Okay, why are these little bubbles keep popping up in my camera? Enough of them now. Okay. To my delight, I also discovered that embracing the science of religion did not mean that I had to abandon the science of matter. This is key also, because we're talking about both proving the other, right? It did not mean that I had to cast aside the rational and the practical. It did not mean that I had to deny the findings of science. I found that the laws that govern the physical world are inextricably interconnected with the laws that govern the subtle world to which meditation gives one access. I realized that there is no conflict between science and religion at all. It's a powerful statement. There is no conflict between science and religion at all. Oh, this is a different way from what we hear in the media, right? Those who use the science of religion to explore reality are simply using another method to discover the same truths as science reveals. I'll say that again. Those who use the science of religion to explore reality are simply using another method to discover the same truths that science reveals. Let me share one intriguing example. Have we got time for the example? Yes, we do. Annie Besant and Charles Leadbeater were prominent members of the Theosophical Society from 1895 to 1933. During that time, they conducted, by means of deep meditation, investigations into the nature of atoms. They systematically observed many different types of atoms, ranging from gases to metals. They described and drew hundreds of diagrams of what they observed in a series of journals. You can imagine how the notion of the psychic investigation of atoms was received by the particle physics community in the 1920s. So, right, in the 1920s, what? Nobody thought like this. Several years after the passing of Besant and Leadbeater, physicist Stephen M. Phillips studied their journals. He was struck by a recurring detail that appeared in many of their diagrams. They drew 3 dark areas in each proton and neutron in the nucleus of the atom. Today, scientists believe that all protons and neutrons are made up of 3 quarks, but this was not known to science during the lifetimes of Besant and Leadbeater. Phillips concluded from recurring depiction and from other details in their journals that Besant and Leadbeater had accurately described the number and nature of quarks years ahead of their discovery by modern physics. Dr. Phillips published his findings in the 1980 book Extrasensory Perception of Quarks, Quarks, in case you need to look them up for some reason. Besant and Leadbeater's ability to perceive the correct number of quarks and protons and neutrons highlights the fundamental premise of this book. There is and can be, let's see if I can read this sentence correctly. There is and can only be one reality. Those versed in the science of religion and those versed in the science of matter simply use different methods to explore the same reality. I'll say that again. Those versed in the science of religion and those versed in the science of matter simply use different methods, different tools to explore the same reality. Material scientists discover its properties through rigorously controlled experiments and call it reality. Spiritual scientists discover its properties through rigorously controlled transcendent experience and call it reality. So we're both calling it reality, right? How to unify the findings, How to unify the findings of science and religion, however, is not immediately obvious. Thus the need for books like this one. The 2 approaches, material science and religious science, use very different languages. On the surface, these languages, as different as words and math, parables and laws, allegories and theories, appear to describe 2 completely different realities. Compounding that difficulty are popular biases. Many people in science and many people in religion fervently deny that their reality could have anything to do with the other. Like Victorian British aristocrats aghast at the thought of mixing with ignorant foreigners, they consider the divide between science and religion deep and absolute. So are you in that, where you're considering the divide deep and absolute? Well, I think that's a great thought to leave us with as we pause here for today. We're not quite at the end of the introduction, but we are almost at the end of the introduction, and then we move into the religion of science. But we are almost at 20 minutes also, so I'm going to pause us here, because if I even read the next paragraph, I will carry us over by quite a bit. So we'll pause here, and What have we got? We'll be back tomorrow morning at 5 minutes past 9 Eastern Daylight Time, and we will continue with the book The Physics of God by Joseph Selbie. I already am enthralled, and we aren't even out of the introduction. I hope you're liking it too. Alrighty, in the meantime, I congratulate you for being here. I thank you for being here. It's an honor and a privilege to be doing this with you. And if this all sounds Greek and you're like, how do I wrap my head around this? Well, follow along with the book studies, and or if you'd like some more explanation, make sure that you start a conversation with me. Let's have a personal conversation. There's plenty I would love to offer you. In the meantime, I hope you have an amazing day, amazing evening, amazing afternoon, whatever it is for you. I love to close out with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, because I don't know what time it is where you are in the world when you are tuning in, unless you happen to be Alla Goldman. Ah, yes, Alla, now I do understand why you love the book so much. You're correct, and thank you for helping to encourage me to read this here. I really thank you for that. And you all who are watching at other times, if you want to thank Allah for me too, that'd be great. She'd love that. Anyhow, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you're having an amazing day. Hey, if you're interested in coming to France with me to do even deeper work on this, I've got a retreat coming up in June, the 9th through the 16th, and there's still a couple of spots left. If you're interested, let's start a conversation, see if it's something that will fit you. Alrighty, I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.